long takes, oneers, Spielbergers, war oneers. Uninterrupted single takes in movies always impress audiences because of how seamless they can be. Oh, come on!
I'm sorry.
A lot of blocking, timing, and rehearsing goes into filming these shots. But do they mean anything if all that work doesn't convey a message or idea? The 2015 film Spectre opens with a very long stage shot of James Bond committing an assassination. But this long shot has so little to do with the character action that it ultimately feels empty. Conversely, the 1990 film Goodfellas uses an iconic one-take through the Copacabana nightclub to reinforce the power and influence of the mafia lifestyle. One of the most commonly used tools that video game cutscenes have borrowed from film in order to tell visual stories has been the long take, due to how it keeps the player immersed within the moment. I even once did a full video on how Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, used one-take cutscenes to set up the game's final twist. But there's one recent game that has used the illusion of unbroken cinematography to critical acclaim: God of War 2018. Today, I'll be examining if the techniques behind this game's cutscenes managed to get it done in one, or if it's all one big waste. Welcome to Mise-En-Game, the show that breaks down gaming's most iconic cutscenes. God of War is rich in emotional storytelling, because so much of this tale is built around the tense family dynamic between protagonist Kratos and his son, Atreus. Kratos' stoic, distrustful nature prevents him from properly bonding with his child, while Atreus has bottled up so many emotions regarding his father that it leaves him disconnected. As the two journey through the mythical lands of Norse mythology, God of War addresses this father-son conflict through some subtle and kind of obvious ways, all presented through the illusion of a single, unbroken camera shot. No matter how elaborate and complex a one-shot may be, audiences have a patience threshold. One-shots are cool, but how do you keep them exciting? A concept I found employed by God of War's cutscenes is what cinematographer Dan Mindel refers to as a dance floor shot. In their video on the cinematography of J.J. Abrams' Star Wars films, Royal Ocean Film Society host Andrew Saladino talks about the methods Abrams uses to guide the audience through multiple points of focus within a singular take. Abrams' shots can transition through several different types of compositions without breaking the take, all through the use of these dance floor shots. The name, dance floor shot, is a play on the fact that, to pull these off, multiple camera operators, actors, and other vital crew members all have to move in one synchronous sequence to make this all look flawless. Now, God of War didn't have complicated shots on live sets with dozens of cast and crew members, but the work Cory Barlog put into guiding the God of War cast through complicated motion capture blocking is just as impressive in my book. The dance floor may not have been as cluttered, but it was still a dance. When God of War employs dance floor shots, I think they're used for some of the most important and effective scenes in the game, such as...
Father, look.
Wait for my mark. Relax. Do not think of it as an animal. It is simply a target. Clear your mind. Feet solid. Steady yourself. Exhale and release.
After hitting some kind of mythical stag with an arrow, Kratos tasks Atreus with putting the beast out of its misery.
No. Finish what you started.
I can't.
The young boy struggles with the deed, his father guiding his hand in order to end this creature's life. The two then sit through a moment of silence, finally capped off with Kratos failing to comfort his son. We bounce between multiple compositions in one breath, and each manage to sell what's going on between these two characters. Doubt, regret, shame, disappointment, and emotional distance. And this is before our journey has fully started, meaning we learn so much about Kratos and Atreus' dynamic, all without a word of dialogue. The next effective dance floor sequence occurs further down in the narrative, and honestly, it's probably the smartest and most effective use of it in the game.
You think I'm weak because I'm not like you. I know I was never what you wanted, but after all this, I thought maybe things were different.
You do not know everything, boy.
No. But at least I know the truth now.
Truth. The truth.
The story reaches a point where Kratos, a fallen Greek god, realizes that he can no longer hide the truth of Atreus' lineage. Kratos decides to confess to his son that he is half mortal, half god. The scene starts with Kratos dominant in the foreground, Atreus in the background. Kratos has the power here because he has the truth his son must hear. As Kratos begins to share this vital information, the camera sweeps low, and when it settles again, Atreus is now the dominant one. Learning he is a god, he becomes the focus, while Kratos remains prominent enough for his delivery to remain important. Finally, the secret now out, the camera pans and settles on a two-shot. Father and son now on equal footing because the wall of secrets between them has finally started to come down. Martin Scorsese once said, "Cinema is a matter of what's in the frame and what's out." It's about what's literally visible and not visible on the screen, but also what is seen and what is unseen in the emotion, the story, the feeling of every moment. The cinematography of God of War follows this concept as well. One of my favorite displays of this comes towards the end of the first realm we explore in the game, about a quarter of the way through our playtime. Kratos must enter a doorway of light and promises Atreus he will not be long. After experiencing a vision of his late wife, Faye, that draws him towards her, Kratos is yanked back to the real world by Atreus. Kratos is initially distraught that Atreus prevented his reunion with Faye, but then the camera moves.
No! No! What have you done? Why did you do that?
I saved you! You were trapped in there! I waited, but you wouldn't come out! So I pulled you out!
Boy, I was gone only... moments.
No! You've been gone a long, long time! I didn't know what to do! You left me here! Again! Why don't you care?
That's impossible.
We should go before they come back. I hope you got what you needed.
In a brilliant piece of reframing, we see that Kratos was not gone minutes, but hours, maybe longer, leaving Atreus to fight for his life on more than one occasion. We go from a tense but seemingly normal two-shot of father and son to seeing the frame littered with corpses and gore, implying a wealth of horrors that Atreus had to endure without his father there. This simple reframing is both shocking and powerful in how it addresses the abandonment Atreus has felt up to and including this pivotal moment. So this example is about what's visible and invisible within the literal frame, but what about what's seen and unseen within our characters? Director Cory Barlog, in a video for GameSpot, breaks down the incredible moment where Kratos, in order to save his son, must dig up and rearm himself with the Blades of Chaos, cursed weapons that signify his former enslavement to the Greek gods. Barlog notes this is the first time in the narrative that Kratos returns to his home since the beginning of the game, and the visual signifiers on screen play a big role in what makes this moment so compelling. In the opening scenes of the game, we see Kratos' home framed from the doorway, visually putting Kratos as an outsider within his own domain. The corpse of Faye is dominant in the center of the frame, and Atreus occupies some space on the right. This triangle shows us the pieces of what once was a complete family. When Kratos returns midway through the game, he enters an empty home, with the composition being very similar to what we saw earlier. However, now the absence of Atreus is really felt, and instead of the body of Kratos' beloved wife occupying the center of the frame, we now have the trap door leading to his dark past. By swapping between these two compositions, we're shown first the importance of what's in the frame, and then the tragedy of what's not in the frame. Cory Barlog has noted in interviews that when he joined the team for the first God of War game, he was pursuing a career in filmmaking, and I think that passion still lies within his heart, because there are several notable cinematic influences within the cutscenes of God of War. John Ford's 1956 epic western film, The Searchers, is noteworthy for its gorgeous landscapes and thrilling standoffs between the protagonists and their adversaries. Some of the most iconic and obsessed over shots in the film are actually the bookends of the story, the opening and closing sequences of the film shown through the doorway of a home. John Wayne's character, Ethan, is introduced as returning from war, framed entering his brother's home through the doorway with such striking use of shadow that it signifies Ethan as an outsider, a stranger to his own family. By the film's end, despite Ethan spending years of his life to save his family, the film ends with him standing outside of the doorway, an outsider looking in. He knows that because of his past, no amount of good will ever guarantee him a normal life among loved ones. God of War pays homage to this shot very early, and in a much more terrifying way. As Atreus prays over his mother's corpse, he turns to see his father in the doorway of their home. A frightening, menacing presence. Kratos is almost a monster, showing that to Atreus, his father is not just a stranger, but a haunting figure. It's a great way to repurpose one of the most iconic shots in American film history, but it's not the only one. Citizen Kane rules, and while there's a great conversation to be had about if it's truly the best film ever made, it's still a pretty damn great one, in part because of its cinematography. I'd like to think Cory Barlog took notice of this too, because God of War reinvents one of Citizen Kane's most famous shots in order to deliver a great storytelling moment. Upon entering the home of the Witch of the Woods, Freya, Atreus is sent outside so that Freya can confront Kratos. She knows he is truly a god, and she is shocked to learn that Kratos has hidden his true self from Atreus. Their argument eventually settles on a two-shot, with Atreus framed between them outside a window, the boy visible in what's known as deep focus. Deep focus is a cinematography technique that's used quite famously in Citizen Kane. Essentially, it's a combination of careful blocking and particular camera lens settings that keep the multiple subjects in focus, even when they're at a distance from one another. One of the most famous uses in Kane is a flashback to the moment where Charles Foster Kane's mother signs him away to the custody of banker Walter Thatcher, in the hopes that sending Charlie away will save him from his abusive father. As Kane's parents argue over the merits of giving up their son, young Charles is constantly framed in the front window of the house, never leaving our sight. As his future is planned out for him, he continues to live in the optimistic present. God of War ingeniously uses the same technique to once again show adults quarreling over the welfare of a child who does not yet know the great destiny that lies before them. What Cory and the Santa Monica development team achieved through God of War is simply astounding. This is truly one of the most engrossing experiences I've ever had with a video game. As a filmmaker, I was even more impressed with how this game manages to pull off incredibly complex yet varied shots, all while sticking to one stylistic standard.
Despite that, not only did they deliver on the cinematic storytelling, but they set a god-tier standard for narrative that game makers will be chasing for years to come. With Ragnarok right around the corner, I can only imagine that very soon we'll be on another mythic journey of family drama. And I, for one, can't wait. Oh, they make it look so easy.